Hello, and thank you as always for listening to this week's episode of On the Pipe Podcast. I am very sorry that we took a brief hiatus there once again, but sometimes life gets in the way. But we have a stacked episode coming at you tonight. We're going to try to cram 3 weekends of racing into one episode. That is right. Tonight we're talking about Battle of the Goats at Brushy Mountain Motorsports Park here in North Carolina. And then we're talking about the round number 3 full gas sprint enduro race that happened at Rock Crusher Farms, also in beautiful North Carolina. Also in Georgia. It's right there on the line. And then we're going to wrap things up by talking about the TKO Enduro that happened this past weekend. We're also going to update you guys real quick on the 739 ride of those crazy MFers that rode their bicycles from North Carolina to Florida, and also give you some insight as to what you can see next from OTP. We got 2 other shows coming out this week. This time I actually mean it, but with no further delay, let's get into this week's show, OTP Tuesday.
10 seconds.
Is this where the damn drumming and the music kicks in?
Yeah.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome. Thank you for joining me once again. This is On the Pipe Podcast, and today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Considering that it is one of the weirdest years in history, I really appreciate that you are choosing to use your time to listen to this week's episode of OTP. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Shepherdson, and we got a lot coming at you that I'm going to try to fit into this one show tonight. That being said, I want to start things off by saying I'm an idiot. Well, I guess kind of a little bit. Anyway, point being, I've never planned anything in my entire life. I don't plan to do things. I just kind of wing it, and I hope for the best, and usually it seems to go okay. It's worked so far in my 27 years of life. With that being said, for the first time, because of the brief hiatus that we took for the past 3 weeks, there's a lot to cram into this episode. So I usually just get on here, hit record, and hope for the best and kind of talk what comes to my brain. This week, I actually sat down, I typed out an outline. I'm talking about Microsoft Word, I'm talking about bullet points, I'm talking about the little dashes under the bullet points where I would come up with a topic at a bullet point. I'd hit enter, I'd hit tab, it'd put a little dash. I would go into some detail, some key points that I want to hit on of that specific topic. And I did that for an entire show, and I broke it all down, and I was so ready to bring you an information-packed, jam-full OTP Tuesday. And you know what happened? I was doing this on my work laptop in my off time, of course. And I have this weird thing going on with it where when it's on Wi-Fi, it just resets. So anyway, the document, of course I didn't save it. Why would I do that? It got deleted, and now the whole thing is gone. And so I tried to make one positive step forward in this podcast that we all know and love and like to listen to. And this is what happens. This is just the universe telling me that it's better to wing it. So right now, I have no idea, no plan. I didn't even write anything down after I saw that one got deleted because it frustrated me that much. So I remember doing it, and I remember being at these events. And so we're going to wing it, and we're going to go, and we're going to hope for the best. That being said, a lot of times I forget to talk about our intro, but we have a wonderful intro that was made by none other than former Supercross West 250 Lights Pro champion Justin Hill on the guitar, bringing us in, and that was also Devin Byram on the drums. That is a custom-made, custom-built, custom-performed, custom-written intro specifically for On the Pipe podcast, which I think is really cool, and that's why I always like to mention it. So that was actually recorded, as you all know, in the very same bedroom that OTP started, and not only the very same bedroom that OTP started, but yesterday, Monday, August 17th, was the 3-year anniversary of On the Pipe podcast. Woo! Okay, that was a little bit dramatic, but I can't believe that it's been 3 years. It popped up on my Facebook memories. The very first show that we ever did was 3 years ago to the day yesterday, and now here we are doing an OTP Tuesday today. That's exciting stuff. So not only are we the largest podcast in off-road, we are the oldest podcast in off-road, and to my knowledge, I think we're still the only podcast in off-road, because we don't do it on Facebook Live. We make it to where you can download it, listen to it when you're at work, when you're driving to a race. We try to make it as convenient as possible for you. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on YouTube, we're everywhere. But OTP, 3 years strong. And I will say, I think I mentioned this in a episode before, but from January this year until May of this year, we actually doubled what I had done previously all time. So the 2.5 years prior got matched in a half a year this year when we introduced the OTP Tuesday. We started bringing on pro riders to do interviews. We started doing that kind of thing, and it really grew. So I hope you guys have liked what has been coming out, because the downloads certainly show that it's been picking up and it's been doing well. So it's awesome to see those numbers, and that makes me even more embarrassed that we took the last 3 weeks off. But I don't want to get into a pity party. I don't want to go into any of that, but just a lot of serious family issues that I've been dealing with. And like I said, you guys tune in to this for some entertainment. You don't want to hear me ramble about my life, but trust me, if there was a way that I could have sat down and done it, I absolutely would have. I was texting Tristan Hart, I was texting Ryan Sipes, both of them. We were trying to line up a podcast to do, and unfortunately it didn't come to fruition. So that should tell you guys right now that if I was able to do a podcast, I would not ignore Tristan Hart, and I would not ignore Ryan Sipes if it wasn't an absolute prevalent matter that kept me from doing the show. So I know I've had to say that. I know I've had to apologize for that several times, but I'm trying to keep this thing consistent. I do this for fun. It costs me money. I've never made anything from it. I just love it. I like doing it, and I like bringing you guys the news, and I like bringing you guys the stories and the results, and I like casting a larger light on off-road. I mean, it's not about me. It's about the fans hearing things, and it's about these riders that dedicate themselves to this sport and have done it for so long to such a high level. I want to bring more focus to them. So that is the goal of the show. I'm sorry that my life gets in the way of it sometimes, but I'm trying to stay consistent. I'm trying to do some big things, and going along with that, we got some really big things coming out. As you guys know, from the very beginning, we have been supported by Armored Graphics. They are a local North Carolina company, and ironically, that very first episode that I talked about 3 years ago, the very first episode was one of the owners of Armored Graphics. It was with Paul Sachak, and Randy Milling joined us as well. But Paul Sachak is one of the owners. He is the man with the plan. He is the man behind the operation right now, making it happen and getting things done over at Armored Graphics. He was on the very first episode with myself and Devin Byram and Randy Milling. Devin Byram, as you guys all know, was the former co-host and also the drums on the intro of the podcast that we were just talking about. In honor of a lot of different things going on, the OTP 3-year anniversary, and Armored Graphics just launched their brand new redesigned website with all of their products on there. We are doing a podcast tomorrow, so Wednesday. You got OTP Tuesday today that you're probably listening to on a Wednesday, and then Wednesday night, we're going to be doing a reunion podcast. I'm going to sit down with Paul Sachak and Devin Byram once again and kind of just talk about life. I don't know how much dirt bike stuff is going to come up. I don't know how much current events are going to come up. I don't know how much past or future events are going to come up, but that was part of the cast of the very first episode that happened 3 years ago, and so we are getting together and we are doing a reunion episode tomorrow night, so I hope you guys listen to that one and tune in as well. But the big news there is that Armored Graphics has a brand new website, armoredgraphics.com. You can also find them on social media at Armored Graphics. They have been longtime friends and supporters of the show. They were the very first episode of the show. They designed our logo. They designed our t-shirts. They designed the graphic kits for the JGR Factory Suzuki what am I missing? Yoshimura. Did I say that? Anyway, the JGR MX Supercross team, they are the official graphics provider for them. So all the JGR bikes and all the factory Suzuki bikes you see, they are Armored Graphics. When you see Ricky Carmichael riding around on a Suzuki, his graphics were made by Armored Graphics. When you see Chad Reed on a Suzuki, they were designed by Armored Graphics. So Armored Graphics, really cool. You can check out their new website. You can use promo code OTP15. So the promo code has always been OTP for the previous site. As they unveil/launch their new website, the new promo code is going to be OTP15. So that's OTP15. That is going to save you 15% on all of your graphics. So if you want a full graphic kit, OTP15 is going to save you 15%. If you want some number plates, OTP15 is going to save you 15%. Go on their website, check it out. They got all the previous 2-year models uploaded. If you need something that is not one of the newer bikes, so say you got a 1999 factory KDX 220 like your boy, or you got maybe it's a 08 YZ250F. They can do graphics for pretty much any bike out there, but right now, on the new site, it's just the last 2 years of models that are out there. So if you need something else, just reach out, contact them, call them, email them, do whatever you need to do. But you can check out what the current graphic kits look like on their site right now at armorgraphics.com. So go check out their website. We got some fun stuff coming up. We're going to do a giveaway for a graphic kit coming up. So an entire graphic kit could be yours. Listen closely for details as we roll closer to that. That might come out in the episode tomorrow night with Paul. But yeah, that's what we got there. We also got Jacob Fetty. Sorry, I blanked right there. Jacob Fetty is the trainer to the stars. He was the man with the plan behind the 739 ride. He's the trainer for Bollinger, the Johnsons, Thad Duvall, Craig DeLong, Evan Smith. He kind of led and planned that 739 ride, which if you listen to our last episode, we sat down with all of those guys before they set out on their ride. I've been talking to him. We're going to do a recap podcast with him to hear about how the ride went. So we talked to them before to get the expectations of the ride. Now we're going to talk to them after to find out expectations versus reality, see if we get any crazy stories out of them. But that one is going to be coming towards the end of the week as well. So I know that we took a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm trying to make it up to you. Hopefully we're going to have 3 shows this week, including this one tomorrow night, and then whenever we get together with Jacob Fetty, we'll talk about that 739 ride and maybe even get some guest appearances from some of the other 739 riders. Speaking of that, one of those riders, Trevor Bollinger, big news coming out of North Carolina. Not only did he re-up his deal with Rockstar Energy Factory Husqvarna, he has a dirt bike again. He is cleared to ride. He had ACL surgery, messed that knee up, and he's recovering from it. Pedaled a bike down to Florida, comes back to North Carolina, and has a Husky waiting for him at the house at Silver Creek MX up there in Morganton, North Carolina. So Trevor Bollinger is back on the bike and riding. So someone asked me if he is going to race this year. I said, I hope not. And I'm going to stick behind that. I hope not. He has no reason to race. Obviously, you're not going to win a championship this late in the season. But he is back riding and training, so hopefully he can work that thing up and get it strong and be ready to come out swinging for next year. But he is back on the bike, which is always a good thing to hear when it comes to an injured rider. Moving on, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Battle of the Goats. It happened in Brushy Mountain, North Carolina, Brushy Mountain Motorsports Park. It was my first hard enduro race. I raced my 1999 Kawasaki KDX 220. It seemed like a good idea for the time, or at the time, rather. And, I mean, I did a lap. That's all I got. Hard enduro is hard. It is a lot harder than I thought. It was not the bike holding me back because Jordan Ashburn proved that KDXs can do anything. And also Dalton Dunham. Dalton Dunham is a trials bike rider. He's 21 years old, and he rode a KDX at Brushy Mountain as well in the Battle of the Goats, and we actually came through the finish line at the same time together. Don't mean to brag or anything. I was finishing my first lap. He was finishing his third lap, but that is not the point or the important part of that story. The point is we came across the finish line together and we got some cool pictures. But he is definitely way better on a KDX than I am, and hard enduro is hard. I don't know how many more times I can say that. I started the day off, I was row 3. I've never been that far up in any race ever before, so I was like, all right, row 3, I am dialed. We get there, they start us out at the Enduro Cross track, and me sitting there like, oh my goodness, I know I'm only row 3, but these people are going to suck. They're going to be throwing their bikes all over. They're going to cause a bottleneck at the start. I was like, what are we going to do when rows are taking off every 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it was, and there's a bottleneck at the start because we're starting in an Enduro Cross section? And I was right. There was a bottleneck in the Enduro Cross section before you even get out of it. The part that I didn't see coming about that was I was the one that caused it. So yeah, I definitely caused the bottleneck. I was row 3, and I think row like 11 passed me by the time I got out of there. So that was me. And it was really cool because if it wasn't embarrassing enough that it was at the start and everybody was standing around watching, the eventual overall winner, Tristan Hart, who rides for RPM KTM, was standing there ever so conveniently placed with a camera phone and videoed the whole entire thing. So not only do I have to sit up there and deal with the embarrassment of everyone staring at me and laughing at me and pointing at me and me looking in the crowd wondering what's going on, and people are making eye contact with me that I know that are sitting there laughing at me because I just caused a giant bottleneck in a Hawaiian t-shirt on a 1999 KDX 220. But then by the time I got home later that evening, I have it was no lie, like 40-something messages on Instagram of people sending me Tristan's video that he posted on Instagram in his stories, and everyone sent it to me like, oh, look, it's you. Oh, we need to work on your riding skills. Oh, we need to work on your Enduro Cross. Tyler, what are you doing? So that was cool. It was really funny, and I mean, when you see a guy with a mustache with a Hawaiian shirt on a KDX 220, I mean, I don't know if people looked at that and thought that that was like what perfection looked like and that was going to be the overall winner of the race, because I would have looked at that person and said that's going to be the one to start the bottleneck. And so I was just, playing the part. So to anyone that was surprised by that, I think that's more of a reflection on your character and not mine, because hard enduro is hard. And I'd never done one before. But the problem in my defense was there's 2 sets of tractor tires. There are smaller tractor tires, bigger tractor tires, and a big old gap right in the middle, a log before and after it. So, big old obstacle. My plan was to do a nice little wheelie up over the top. I was like, oh, if I can get my front wheel on the second set of tires, and we're dialed. I'm golden. I'm off to the races. I'm about to overhaul this thing. Factory Sherco is going to offer me a bike. I'm going to shut them down because Beta's going to give me more money. I'm going to be the next damn Colton Haker and Cody Webb. Eat your heart out. That didn't happen. We were going to that set of tractor tires, and the guy in front of me hit the log at an angle. His front tire washed out. His bike washed into my path. So then I'm on the first tire and have to lock up my brakes because there's a bike in front of me. And so there goes all of my momentum. There goes my wheelie idea because I had to slam on brakes to not hit this guy. Well, then after that, I had to just kind of power through it. Well, KDX fork lugs stick down about 4 inches farther than the axle. Those fork lugs, because they're not inverted forks, they got stuck and jammed in between the next 2 tractor tires. And when I say that thing was stuck, I mean that thing was stuck. We had 3 people sitting there lifting up on it, and my bike would not move. So that is what caused the bottleneck. I could not get my bike out no matter how hard I tried. We were right there on the edge of the track. I eventually just pushed the thing over, just kept pushing it over until I eventually flipped it upside down off of the damn tires. And Tyler Mole, who runs the race, he was sitting there. He's like, yeah, you're fine, just go. So that's ended up how I got out. That thing was stuck in there. So Really embarrassing moment, and that kind of ruined the rest of my day, in my professional opinion, because by the time I muscled it out of there, flipped that thing over upside down, and got out of there and went over the next set of logs, I looked at my watch, and I was running a 206 heart rate. That is higher than my max heart rate should be, but it was a 206, and I did nothing to prepare for that race. I went into it dehydrated. I hadn't been riding. I hadn't been training. I hadn't been drinking water. I drank some beer the night before. Was not ready. I was like, oh, it's hard enduro. We're going to be going slow in the woods. What do I need to be hydrated for? Anyway, fast forward to the next day. Before the race even really started, I'm running a 206 heart rate, and then from there, I never recovered from that. It was the weirdest thing ever. My body, I kind of blew up doing that. I got up to 206, and then from there on out, my average for the rest of the day ended up being 189, a 189 average, and it had never happened to me in any race before like it did in this one, where once I hit 206 and I blew up and all that, I could never recover. So I never really calmed back down after that. There were another couple other tricky sections after that, and I would sit at the bottom and wait for my heart rate to get down into the mid 160s, and then I'd be like, all right, I'm ready to go again. And literally going up a 2-foot hill or just doing trying one little thing, my heart rate would immediately jack up into the high 190s. It was the weirdest thing ever. I couldn't do anything without my heart rate going through the roof, and I think it's because I blew up so bad at the beginning. So that kind of sucked for the rest of the race. I was on a hill climb. People everywhere. There should be a qualifier to get into the qualifier for those races, because most of them people out there, I wouldn't trust them riding their bike through the gravel parking lot, let alone them trying to climb these hills and get over these obstacles. So sitting there struggling, running a high heart rate, ended up puking all over the hill, and then took my helmet off and puked some more. So I didn't have much water in my system, and I puked like my body weight of water out on that hill. And then my buddy was sitting there too, and he's like, dude, you should probably go back. And I didn't think about it till he said that. I was like, maybe that's not such a bad idea. But anyway, I got up that hill. I got up the next little section. I right up the next section. It was like a rocky ravine thing. Got up it perfectly. I got to the top of that section, and I immediately got cold. So it was really humid, really hot. I was sweating profusely. I ended up puking. But then when I got to the top of that rocky section, I immediately felt cold, like shivering cold, like freezing cold. And I'm a safety guy for work, and so I have to teach stuff about heat stroke, and I've been through classes on heat stroke and heat exhaustion and heat stress. And that is one of the major no-no signs that you are about to pass out and have a heat stroke is when you stop sweating and when you get cold. And I was freezing cold. So from there, I made the decision to go down, lay in the creek for a little bit, recover, drink some water. I was probably down there for like 35 minutes just laying in the creek. After that, I felt good, went back to where I pulled off the track at, finished the rest of the lap. That part of it went fine, still ran a little bit higher heart rate than I would think that I would typically would. But nevertheless, that was my experience of the Battle of the Goats. I think now that I have a better understanding of it, I can be better prepared going into it. But big thanks to Kenda Tires. Kenda Tires really hooked me up for that. Kenda Tires sent me a whole bunch of tires, and including a Ibex, which is their hard enduro like cheater tire. Is basically a knobby that's made with Trials Bike compound. So if you're riding things like Brown Mountain, or you're riding things like, it would be a good tire for snowshoe. That's not happening. It's a really good tire. It's really grippy. It grips on rocks really well. And it's a knobby dirt bike tire, but it's just a really soft compound. You can like twist the knobs on it. So I think that helped tremendously. So big shout out to Kenda Tires. They make a bunch of really good tires. That is the only tires that I run, and that's the only tires I have ran for the past 2 years. Really good tires. So check them out, Kenda Tires. But yeah, they were actually sponsoring the event too. It was the Kenda Battle of the Goats. It's the Kenda Full Gas Sprint Enduro Series that we're going to be talking about next. But that is what it panned out. And then it was really cool to go after the race and travel around and look at the pro race and see how them dudes get up the same stuff that I could not get up, and they do it with ease. I think the big news coming out of there, and I don't remember the last time I went to a race where I felt out of place. I go to GNCC, and I know 80% of the people there, all the way to the back row. I know a lot of people. Like, I can recognize a lot of people. I know a lot of people's names from taking pictures of them, seeing results. Nevertheless, like, everyone is familiar to me. Like, I can see them and be familiar with who's out there racing. I was so out of place at this race. I knew like 3 people. I didn't even know, to be honest with you, I didn't know Tristan Hart, and I didn't know Tristan Hart until everyone started sending me that video from him, and then I ended up going back and found out that he won that race that day. But so yeah, I knew Cody Webb, and I knew Ryan Sipes. I knew Nick Farringer's name. I knew Max Gerson's name, but if you told me to point him out on the line, I wouldn't be able to. There was a dude that came by on a factory beta in a Red Bull helmet. That is a big deal. If you have a Red Bull helmet, you are somebody. Caleb Russell doesn't have a Red Bull helmet. Ben Kelly doesn't have a Red Bull helmet. Josh Toth doesn't have a Red Bull helmet. If you have a Red Bull helmet, you are somebody. A dude came by with a Red Bull helmet. I had no idea who it was. Turns out it was factory beta rider Benjamin Herrera. I did learn that, figured that out because he raced a Sprint Enduro with us the following weekend. But yeah, it was just so weird. I felt so out of place that I didn't know people. So I was out in the woods watching the race and seeing these riders go up this stuff that I struggled with, and they were going up it like it was nothing. And it was just a really cool experience and really humbling, to say the least. Because like I said, I had it in my mind that I was just going to be good at it. Like, I like riding technical stuff. I feel like I'm decent at technical stuff, and I don't like going fast. So I was like, this is right up my alley. It's hard. Hard enduro is hard. But it was cool to go out there and watch them. Tristan Hart ended up getting the win. Every time you saw he and Cody Webb, you could throw a net over them both. I mean, it was a close battle. I think they were running like 19-minute lap times. You had to do 3 laps in 3 hours. They did the first lap in 19 minutes. Makes zero sense to me. But those dudes kind of put on their own show, and that is who ended up winning the main event on Sunday. So Saturday was a shortened version of the course. Sunday was the full pole. It had Wenzel's waterfall. It had chutes and ladders. It had all those gnarly things that Brushy Mountain has to offer, and it was Tristan Hart that would get the win there once again. And then it was Cody Webb coming in second place on that factory Sherco, and then Keith Curtis was your third place overall finisher in the main event. But to watch these riders go up some of the stuff like Wenzel's water slide or waterfall, that thing is way bigger and way steeper in person than you could ever imagine from any of the videos, and I don't know how them dudes go up it and make it look so easy. Same thing with like chutes and ladders and some of the other hill climbs there. I have a whole new respect for hard enduro dudes. They are gnarly, because I don't know if you've ever heard this before or heard me say it before, but hard enduro is hard. And those dudes make it look easy, and I don't get it. Also interesting to note that I'm pretty sure everyone that raced it said that that was the hardest race that they'd raced in America. And very interesting to note that, guys like Tristan Hart, Ryan Sipes, Cody Webb, these guys have all raced Erzberg. And Cody said that it is harder than Erzberg. He said that the Battle of Goats in North Carolina was harder than Erzberg. So it just tells you how tough and how challenging they make that track up there at the Brushy Mountain Motorsports Park. Tyler Mole puts on a great race. I think that was the 4th or the 5th year of it. The first time that I was able to race it. As much as I'd like to say I'd like to do it again, I'm just not sure. It was hard. Hard enduro is hard. I was supposed to race TKO, but ended up having a Rona scare, so I was not able to go to TKO this past weekend. But that was my plan. I was planning to be there, get some redemption on the KDX, but I had a Rona exposure, and I just didn't feel like it was right to go to that race knowing that, especially because probably would have ended up on the mic because Full Gas Timing and Scoring was doing the scoring there, so Hooper drove from the Full Gas to TKO, and he was doing the scoring, which means he had his whole setup with him. And so I probably would have been announcing at some point, sharing a microphone with people, sitting in a trailer with people, talking with riders. And given that I did have that exposure until I found everything out and was for sure whether or not I would have it or they would have it or anything, I wasn't going to put myself or anyone else in that situation. So I did not go to the TKO. Thanks a lot, Rona. But good news, I'm negative. I don't have it. I do not have the Rona. That's great news. Anyway, we're going to fast forward a week after Battle of the Goats, where we saw Tristan Hart take the win, Cody Webb take second. We went to Hiawassee, Georgia. Young Harris, Georgia. Or is it Hiawassee, Georgia? I think the track is in Young Harris. But anyway, Rock Crusher Farms, Adam McCluskey's place over there, right on the line of Georgia and North Carolina. Probably one of the most beautiful parts of this dang country, if I do say so myself. Lake Chateau is right there. It's also near Cherokee. It's basically as far western North Carolina as you can get, like past Wilson and all of that. And it borders Georgia, but the coolest area ever. I mean, you're up in the mountains, but then you're in a valley surrounded by taller mountains. So you're already in the mountains. You get those mountain vibes. But then there's mountains around you because of the valley that's kind of created up there. Like the highest point in Georgia overlooks the track. And like the Appalachian Trail goes through Georgia. Georgia is mountainous in the western side of it, northern and western side of it. And so the highest point in Georgia overlooks Rock Crusher Farm. So it's such a cool area. It's such a cool little lake town. It's such a cool, I don't know. I could see if I had a way to make some money and live somewhere where I didn't have to commute to make that money, that's where I would be going. Like, that place is sick. I really like it. It's really laid back. Good people everywhere. I mean, it's a really cool area. But that's where we went full gas racing for the weekend. Rock Crusher Farms, they went there a few times in the past, and then they skipped a year in 2018, and then 2019 and 2020. We have gone back to Rock Crusher Farms, which I'm very happy about because I think it's really cool. A lot of great racing going on at Rock Crusher Farms. One of the coolest things, or I don't know if you could say one of the coolest things, but one of the strangest things of the weekend, Saturday, cross test number 2. It was test number 3 on the day. So, yeah, that would be cross test number 2. Josh Strang won that test, and Caleb Russell got second. But the craziest part about it is their times were 5 minutes 53.406 seconds and 5 minutes 53.407 seconds. So that is 1,000th of a second difference between Caleb Russell and Josh Strang in test number 3. I have never seen a time that close in a pro class. Last year, my buddy and good friend of the show, OTP OG Bradley Chapman, he was racing Open B on a 04 CR250, and him and Brett Spalding, one of the Tennessee boys, the Bristol boys, where we'll be at for the next full gas, they tied. Like all the way down to the 1,000th of a second. They had the exact same time for a test. But this was insane that it's the pro riders. It's the pro class. These were the fastest 2 times of the oh, no, it wasn't. Johnny Gerard actually won the test. Johnny Gerard won it with a 5:53.335. But these were the second and third fastest times of the day. So you got to think, with a ton of corners, a ton of elevation, a ton of berms, a ton of tape, a ton of lines that you can take at the end of it. Each individual line that they took, each individual move that they made, they were 1,000th of a second apart. And to me, I'm a nerd. I'm a numbers guy. That blows my mind. I thought that was crazy. But it was a great weekend of racing. Other than that, it was the first race that I can remember. So usually I get there and I try to take a lap on Friday. So I'll go ride the cross test, ride the woods on a dirt bike, because I announce for the full gas races. So I try to get there and ride both of the tracks, so that way I kind of know what's out there, really, because I really like riding dirt bikes. But I want to see what the tracks look like, and then I try to get a ride in afterwards, too, to see how much the track broke down, what lines formed, what ruts formed. Because full gases are unlike any other thing that you will see. It is not typical lines. You go look at GNCC lines and you go look at full gas lines, they are not the same. They are way different. And so it's kind of cool to see what lines develop, because when you're racing the clock, you got to look at things a lot differently. And so it's cool. But long story short, I don't mean to get off on a tangent. It was the first race in quite some time that I did not ride the test and see. So I don't know what the track looked like. I know what it looked like last year. I kept hearing that the woods were very tight and technical, but I was not able to go out there and ride it and see it. Nonetheless, it is a beautiful piece of property, and there was a lot of tight racing in between all the classes, not just the pro classes, but all the amateur classes as well. Just a lot of competitive and very tight and very close racing over the weekend, but it was Caleb Russell takes his third overall win in as many rounds. He gets the number 1 spot. Josh Strang, your second fastest rider overall. Josh Strang actually won day 1? Day 2? Day 1? Day 2? Let me double check so I don't tell you the wrong thing. Josh Strang won day 2. So Caleb won day 1 by a lot. Caleb won day 1 by 16 seconds. And then Josh Strang won day 2 by 3 seconds. So, obviously, 13 is more than 3. And it evened out for Caleb to get the overall win by 14 seconds. So, I think my numbers were wrong there somewhere. But they split day wins once again, which full gases are scored each individual day. At round 2, we saw each of them split day wins as well, because I think Strang won day 1 at round 2, and he won day 2 at round 3. So tight racing between Caleb and Josh, but Caleb puts that race IQ down and gets the overall win for the weekend. Strang had one bad test that set him back quite a bit on the weekend. I just had it pulled up a second ago, but I don't remember what it was. As you guys know, the full gas races, they are there's 12 tests that all accumulate towards your overall score for the weekend. So in 12 tests, there's a lot that can happen, and if you get behind on one of them, it's really hard to make up that time, because without mistakes, it's really hard to go much faster. I mean, we're looking at the fastest dudes on the track separating themselves by 1,000th of a second. So it was test number 2 on Saturday. Strang dropped 11 seconds to Caleb Russell. And I think that was the determining factor of not only the day, but for the weekend. I mean, dropped 11 seconds in one test and ended up losing by 16, I think I said, 14, 16. So, I mean, that's the bulk of it right there. So you make a mistake, and that could end your weekend. And then they came down to 3 seconds on day 2 when Strang got the win there. So it just shows you how close that racing is and how on point you have to be at all times to do it. And that's one of Strang's biggest strong suits, is the consistency and just staying consistent. But Caleb, at the second round, we saw him hammered down. I think he won the first cross test of the day, or the first woods test of the day, by like 10 or 20 seconds or something crazy. And then we talked about it before on that recap show of round number 2, that once he gets a gap like that, then it's just maintaining. You start the weekend out, or you start the day out tied. And so you're tit for tat. Every single test, you guys are racing each other. Then all of a sudden you gap by 15 seconds, 11 seconds, 20 seconds. Now you don't have to go balls to the wall to beat that person every single test. Now, I mean, if you're ahead by 11 seconds, you can lose every test by a second for the rest of the weekend, and you're going to win on time. So it just kind of, I think that helps out a lot with race management if you can find a way to get a gap like that. And gaps like that don't just come. They don't come out of nowhere. I mean, it takes a fall, it takes a mistake, and at those full gases, you really just have to be perfect. I mean, Caleb Russell and Josh Strang, they're both ISDE world champions. And I mean, that's the format of racing that ISDE has. They are both full gas sprint enduro series champions. They are both GNCC national champions. So those two dudes are just on a whole nother level as far as this racing is concerned, and they've been going back and forth this year, and it's been awesome to see. And some really close racing. So the last 2 rounds in a row, they split day wins. So I believe Caleb won both the days at the first round. I wasn't at the first round of Full Gas this year, so I don't even know what happened there. But in the last 2 rounds, they've split day wins, which means they split points because the points aren't based off the overall weekend. You get points for Saturday, points for Sunday. So in essence, the last 2 rounds, Strang and Russell are tied. Obviously, Caleb is the points leader because he won round 1. But I guess I should look at that and see who won the days at round 1. Anyway, long story short, Caleb Russell takes a win. Josh Strang in second place. And rounding out the overall podium was the Pro 2 winner, Johnny Gerard, gets third place overall again. So he had third place at the second round, and then he gets third place overall at the third round, obviously winning the Pro 2 class, but getting up there on the overall podium as well. So he's super stoked about that. Johnny G's a super cool guy, loves to have fun, and he has fun going fast through some trees, and it's insane, really. But, yeah, Johnny G on a 250 gets third place overall, but Lane Michael is going to be your third place overall pro rider. Lane Michael and Jordan Ashburn went back and forth all weekend once again. They went back and forth all weekend at round number 2. They went back and forth all weekend at round number 3, and it was Lane that edged out Jordan Ashburn just a little bit once again. As we mentioned, Benjamin Herrera raced with us. Liam Draper got 5th place. Benjamin Herrera got 6th. And then Tyler McSwain came out and raced part of the day on day 1. But that's your Pro 1 class. Caleb, Strang, Lane Michael, Jordan Ashburn, Liam Draper, and then Benjamin Herrera. He's the guy from Battle of the Goats with the Red Bull helmet for those keeping track at home. Johnny Gerard, the 969 out of Southwick, Mass. The 8,000-time J-Day overall champion. He gets third place overall. He wins the weekend once again by more than 2 minutes in that Pro 2 class. So more than 2 minutes ahead of Jesse Ainsley. Jesse Ainsley had a good ride. He gets second place at Full Gas. I believe that is his highest finishing position in any race in a Pro 2 level race. So GNCC, National Enduro, Full Gas, I believe that is his career best finish in that second place position. And then Ben Nelko, who has been on a roll here lately, Ben Nelko rounds out your Pro 2 podium in third place. RJ Cook was in 4th, and Will Reardon was in 5th. Will Reardon, young kid, was over here staying with Strang. They live in California now. They're originally from Australia. Him and his brother, who we'll talk about here in a second, they were over here racing Battle of the Goats, and then they raced Full Gas, and I believe Will actually went and raced TKO this past weekend as well. Hunter Neuwirth, he got 6th place in Pro 2. He parked next to us, got a chance to talk to him, put a face with a name. Super cool dude, Hunter Neuwirth. Very cool guy. Ended up meeting a guy over the weekend too that knows him, so that was really cool too to meet up with him, and yeah, that was pretty cool. I'll talk about that in a second though. See, this is why I tried to write stuff down, because I had this written down and I completely forgot to talk about it at the beginning of the show, and here we are 40 something minutes in and I remember what I forgot to talk about. But moving into our Pro-Am class, Dalton Seals. Dalton Seals out of Lexington, South Carolina. He grabs his first Pro-Am victory, just under 2 seconds ahead of Angus Reardon. So Gus Reardon, he is the other one that I was talking about. He is the brother of Will Reardon. They're from Australia. They live in California. They were here with Strang, and they were both out with us on Thursday night. And not to brag or anything, but Angus Reardon, he was my cornhole partner at the Lake Norman Brewery, and him and I are currently undefeated in America at cornhole. So if you think you want the smoke, you just let us know, and me and Gus Reardon are going to throw some bags in some holes and take you down. But, yeah, Gus, he told me, I was talking to him, and he's like 15, 16 at most, I think. And I was asking him, like, how fast he was and, like, how fast his brother was, and just kind of talking to him. And he told me his brother was racing Pro 2 and he was racing Pro-Am. I was like, oh, well, that'd be fun. I can't wait to see it. He comes out, this dude, I wish I knew how old he was. He was 15 or 16. But he comes out to the cross test. Let me just see what the overall was. He put down the 10th fastest cross test time. So cross test number 1, Gus Reardon, was the 10th fastest. But in Pro-Am, he was 11 seconds faster than Cole Madison. So Cole Madison is the Pro-Am points leader so far in Full Gas. And Gus Reardon came out and beat him by 11 seconds in the first cross test, which Cole is fastest in the cross test. Like, he's faster than everybody else in the cross test, and Gus beat him by 11 seconds. So I thought that was insane. I went up to him, and he was still leading after the second test. I said, dude, you told me you were fast. You didn't tell me you were fast. So if he's doing that good already, I think we got a lot to see from him. Rumor mill has it that they are trying to find a way to get over to the East Coast to race GNCC and Full Gas. No doubt the Reardon brothers, I think, will shine in that if they do make their way over here, because Gus Reardon gets second place on the weekend by, like I said, less than 2 seconds over Dalton Seals, who grabbed his first win. Cole Madison, your current Pro-Am points leader, he was third place in that Pro-Am class. Neil Enman got fourth, and Zach Nash was fifth place in the Pro-Am class. And then our women's pro class, Mackenzie Tricker got her first victory of the season. Taylor Jones was in second place, and Shelby Turner was in town. I believe she stayed with the Ashburns the week after Full Gas, because she raced TKO this past weekend. But she came out and raced Sprint Enduro with us from Alberta, Canada. She ended up third place in Women's Pro. The other important thing to note there, I think it was the first or the second test of the morning on Sunday. Taylor Jones hit a tree, broke a bone in her hand. She has since had surgery on that hand, and her surgery was on Tuesday or Wednesday, and she said that she's going to be back riding next week, which blows my mind. That is insane. I don't understand how that happens, but I also don't understand how Taylor Jones is Taylor Jones. And, yeah, so she shattered her hand, still finished all 12 tests, still finished the race, and got in that second place position. She's the reigning, defending 3-time Sprint Enduro champion, and it's because of things like that, I think, is what makes her so tough to beat. But Mackenzie Tricker, no doubt, putting in the work. She had to sit out at the last round due to a knee injury or a leg injury. So she's kind of been laying low, really focusing on defending her National Enduro Championship. But she comes out, goes faced in that women's pro class, and was leading a lot of the day on day one as well. So it's definitely earned by Mackenzie Tricker as she takes that women's pro win. Another interesting to note from the Full Gas weekend, one of my Call of Duty squad members, Lyndon Snodgrass, he came out and set the world on fire at the first round. I believe he just barely missed the overall podium at the first round in at Full Gas at GTR. I think he won Pro 2, but I think he got third or fourth place overall. No doubt a favorite. He had to miss the second round because he was trapped in Australia due to COVID. They weren't letting anyone in or out. So he missed the second round. He came out for the third round. High expectations, a lot of stuff. He was fresh off the airplane too, so still getting adjusted to everything over here. But first test of the day, he hits a tree, bends his chain guide, knocks his chain off of his bike, and gives up 5 minutes. 12 tests for the weekend. He gives up 5 minutes in test number 1. So didn't get to see that battle quite pan out like we were all hoping it to between him and Johnny G. So he's going to settle, I think it was like 8th or 9th place overall on the weekend. Obviously, you give up 5 minutes. It's hard to make that back. But bummer for Lyndon Snodgrass there. I know he's got a lot of potential. He's also on that Babbitt's Online Monster Energy Factory Kawasaki team, teammates with Jordan Ashburn and Josh Strang, who are on the same bikes. But expecting to see some big things out of him, and I can't wait to see him bounce back and get a fair shake on a weekend, because that is a tough way to start out your Full Gas Sprint Enduro weekend, losing that much time. Yeah. I think that's the noteworthy stuff coming out of that. Going back to Battle of the Goats real quick. Not having anything written down. Couldn't do it. Devin Dunham. Oh, I did talk about him. We talked about coming through the finish line together. All right, just want to make sure I got that in there. TKO was this past weekend. I've never been to TKO. It was my first opportunity. I thought I was going. I was super pumped, and then I didn't go. But Tristan Hart, after he won Battle of the Goats, he said that it would be a dream come true if he was to win the TKO Enduro. He said that is what he was setting his sights on, and that is what he went out and did. I believe he's 20 or 21 years old or something like that. He's young. He's from Canada. He's on that KTM-supported RPM KTM team. He grabs the win over Cody Webb. He wins the Tennessee Knockout in 2020. He won the main event. Cody Webb, your second place finisher once again. So him and Tristan chasing each other around the Trials Training Center out there in Tennessee, just like they chase each other around Brushy Mountain Motorsports Park in North Carolina. They ended up finishing first and second once again. Mr. Red Bull helmet himself, Benjamin Herrera, on that beta. He grabs the third place position. Fourth place went to Noah Keppel on a Husqvarna. And rounding out your top five was Keith Curtis, who we saw get third place at the Battle of the Goats. But one of the important things to note there, for one, in eighth place was Will Reardon, the California by way of Australia 16, 17, 18-year-old that we were talking about. He gets eighth place in TKO. That's super cool. But then Jordan Ashburn, I was talking to him at Full Gas. I got a KDX. He has a KDX. His dad has a KDX. We're basically the KDX crew. And I was talking to him about it. I was like, dude, so you're gonna knock the dust off that thing and go race the KDX at TKO? And he's like, oh, not really. Wasn't planning on it. And then I went up and talked to him again, and he came over. He's like, so are you going to TKO? And I told him that my plan was to go and race and hang out and announce. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go ride my KDX this week. And if I feel good, I'm going to go race TKO on my KDX. And he's like, I just want to do it for fun. He's like, the moment I stop having fun, I'm going to pull off. He's like, I'm not going there to win it. I just want to go and ride and have fun. So that is exactly what he did. He got his dad's KDX 200. I think Jordan has a 220. So he got his dad's KDX 200. He went out there and he raced the TKO. He had the fastest prologue qualifying time on a KDX. I'm pretty sure. I might be making that up. Even if I am, just go with it because it sounds really cool. But he ends up putting that thing in the main event on Sunday. And, I mean, there's been a lot of really well-known riders on factory-prepared bikes that don't make it to the main event on Sunday. And Jordan Ashburn went out there with no preparation for hard enduro. Obviously, he's staying busy racing GNCCs and racing sprints, but no hard enduro preparation. He went out there on a 98 KDX 200. He puts that thing in the main event and gets 11th place in the main event on a 98 KDX 220, which I think, or 200, which I think is absolutely awesome. I mean, he beat Quinn Wenzel, he beat Ronnie Como, he beat Cooper Abbott, he beat Danny Lewis. Like, he beat some good dudes on a 22-year-old motorcycle. So kudos to Jordan Ashburn. I think that is absolutely sick. I am super pumped that he was out there racing, and I'm even more super pumped that he did well on that thing. But yeah, I know this is a bit of a longer episode. I appreciate you guys sticking with it this far. There was something that I brought up a second ago that I didn't talk about at the beginning that I needed to make sure I talked about, and now I don't remember what it was, because I wasn't able to write anything down. Anyway, the 739 ride that happened, be looking out for that podcast coming out to recap that with myself and Jacob Fetty of Hi-Fi Coaching and the Hi-Fi Coaching podcast. You can check them out and get all sorts of nutrition and workout tips from him at the Hi-Fi Coaching podcast. Be looking out for that podcast. It's going to be coming out later in the week. I think we're going to do it on a video call, so there should be a video as well. Tomorrow, Wednesday night, we're doing a podcast with myself, Paul Sachak of Armor Graphics, and Devin Byram of Byram Upholstery. We will be doing our 3-year reunion anniversary podcast, so be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions for any of us, let us know. And other than that, thank you guys so much for understanding, and even after taking a little bit of time off, thank you so much for coming back and listening to On the Pipe podcast. I was Tyler Sheberson, just as always, and you were great for coming and listening. Make sure you check out armoredgraphics.com, check out their new graphics kit, and stay tuned for what we're going to be doing. We're giving away a graphic kit, and I got a couple ideas I need to run by Paul tonight that we can do some other giveaways and do some other fun things for you guys too. But in the meantime, go check out armoredgraphics.com, check out their new kits. They really revamped it, and don't forget OTP 15 will save you 15% off of all of your graphic kits or graphic needs in the Armored Graphics store. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you tomorrow night for another episode of OTP.